For a long time, the United States and the United Kingdom have had a special relationship that has been mutually beneficial. This was true in the Cold War as well, as evidenced by the fact that Twilight Struggle has an optional card specifically referencing it. We'll take a close look at it today here on Legendary Tactics. The Special Relationship card is representative of the close political, diplomatic, cultural, economic, military, and historical relations between the United States and the United Kingdom, as referenced in a speech in 1946 by none other than Winston Churchill. But how does this card work in Twilight Struggle? How do both players manage it? Let's take a look at it now. Special Relationship is a 2-op early war US event card. Triggering the event requires the UK to be controlled by the US. If that's the case, and the NATO event is not in effect, the US adds 1 influence to any country adjacent to the UK. If NATO is in effect, the US adds 2 influence to any Western European country and gains 2 victory points. For the USSR, the effectiveness of this event will of course depend on whether NATO has been triggered yet. Obviously, the effect without NATO being in place is only a minor irritation, while the post-NATO event can be much more impactful. Since the US will inevitably wait for you to play their NATO event, knowing that you won't be able to let those 4 operations points go unused, you can control the timing on that. This is made infinitely easier if you send the Marshall Plan to space and hold off on using the Warsaw Pact for the event. You should be keeping the Warsaw Pact event in the deck until the late war if you can anyway, as that is when it really shines. But something that the USSR player may not remember is that this event is only effective if the UK is under US control. While it doesn't make sense for the Soviet player to actively enter into an ops war over the UK, it is very possible that the socialist governments or Suez Crisis events will, at least temporarily, cause the US to lose control of the United Kingdom. This can allow you to play Special Relationship for the ops with no negative consequence, at least until the US player restores control of the UK, which might take a while as operations points are extremely valuable in the early war. Regaining control of the UK is not top priority. The primary advantage of this event before NATO is triggered is that it allows the US to place an influence in France or Canada. If the US already controls those 2 countries, the influence will mainly be used to reinforce their control there, as states like Benelux and Norway are not likely worth the effort. So if they already control those 2 countries, you may choose to play this event for the operations points at a small cost to you. The only reason that Canada is important for US control is to activate the NORAD event card. If the US doesn't yet control Canada, you might want to hold back on playing Special Relationship if you can, or perhaps send it to space, as you want the Americans to have to spend their own influence there instead. There may also be a situation where you control France, in which case you may have to use one of the operations points to repair the damage if the US chooses to place the influence there. Play the event first before the ops so you know what the US decides to do. Things change a bit once NATO is in force. One nifty idea, if you have influence in France, is to use the 2 ops provided by the Special Relationship card to break control of the United Kingdom in advance of letting the event happen. This will force the Americans to respond to reclaim control of the UK, and you avoid a somewhat nasty event. When NATO is in effect, this card becomes a great candidate for the space race, provided you haven't advanced too far down the track where you require a 3-op card to play there. If Europe hangs in the balance, or even if you have domination, you want to avoid playing this event if you can, and the space race is the only viable option. Otherwise, if you can't mitigate it, take a look at the board. If Western Europe is pretty solidly under US control anyway, then effectively the event becomes a trade, 2 ops in exchange for 2 victory points. It's hardly desirable, but it is what it is. For the US, Special Relationship is a mixed bag. Before NATO is played, it's nothing really notable, but after NATO is played, this card becomes quite good. So the rule of thumb is that before this event is boosted by NATO, you should take this card for the operations points, which is worth at least the same as the 1 influence placed by the event, but gives you much greater flexibility. If the event is played for you, as it often is, use the influence provided to boost France, a key European battleground. Or Canada, setting up the NORAD event, whichever is best for you. You might want to hold off on spending any of your own operations points on Canada if you can, and use the special relationship influence to help out your cause there. Once the event has been boosted by NATO, it is likely better to play it for the event. Not only are the 2 victory points welcome, but you can use the 2 influence to control one of the non-battlegrounds in Western Europe, like Greece or Spain, Portugal. You can reinforce your control of Italy and/or France, or you can break Soviet control of any of these, perhaps allowing you the opportunity to flip the control there. That said, it's not worth triggering the NATO event specifically to allow for a better special relationship event. Even though special relationship is made much better by NATO, the NATO event itself is not very good, and it's much better to use the 4 ops. Let the Soviet player trigger NATO for you each and every time. So make sure that you control and maybe even over-control the United Kingdom if you have the boosted special relationship event in play, as you don't want the Soviet to break control of the UK temporarily so they can sneak this event through. In summary, the USSR should do what is needed to avoid triggering the NATO event for as long as possible, to keep this special relationship benign for as long as possible. You will have to begin to pay real attention to this event once the NATO event is in play. So, send special relationship to space or use the ops on the card to break US control of the United Kingdom to prevent the event from happening. The US should play special relationship for the ops before the NATO event improves the special relationship card. Afterwards, it will likely make sense to play the event every time. This has been our summary of the special relationship event card in the game Twilight Struggle. Thank you so much for watching. Please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe down below. We'll see you here next time on Legendary Tactics.